In honor of this being a week of change, we're coming to the close of the Leo cycle and going to begin the Virgo cycle. So I put little flames behind me from a burn pile as a result of a logging operation I did um, a lot of years ago, just to kind of allow us to recognize there's been a lot that has transpired during this lunar cycle. I mean, we had 3 weeks of Mercury going retrograde during the process, and right now Mercury is going direct again, all in Leo. And if one tunes in effectively to utilizing that Mercury retrograde cycle, you were provided with the opportunity to really tune in a little bit more explicitly to something that, created some level of curiosity within you that wasn't necessarily going to be above board or uh, in the nature that you're going to be comparing notes with other people about. No, this is a retrograde look inside oneself that has been asked of us to consider. It's Tuesdays, but I've just spent a very long weekend starting on Friday, this last week, and going till today of my granddaughter visiting with my daughter and her husband. And that she's 4.5 years old and just a bundle of energy. It has been a substantial delight. I'm not going to cover a lot of astrological things today. One specific one, which is going to be the sun going into Virgo. Yes. Let's just go take a look at the chart right now. This is yesterday, Monday. And, there are aspects that are trying. This is an interesting one. The sun, as it gets ready to shift from Leo into Virgo, is forming a trine with Chiron. And I don't generally bring Chiron into the considerations uh, as explicitly as I could. And part of the reason for that is that the signature of who Chiron is covers a lot of ground. I'm just going to read you something from the Draconic chart book that I have by Reverend Pamela Crane to just let you think into what it is that Chiron might signify if it's involved in a particular aspect. Chiron's in Aries, so there's an uptick in what it is attempting to bring for consideration. Chiron, terms such as maverick have been applied to it. Connections with learning and teaching. Yes, Chiron was a teacher. With suffering and healing have been firmly established. It is concerned with the transmission of knowledge. skills, wisdom, and values. It is the province also of paradox, that which is neither one thing nor the other, the singularity, the utterly unusual, and combining of things apparently irreconcilable. So there's a lot of ways that one might, you know, try to grasp what does Chiron signify in any aspect that it's involved in. So this aspect that we're looking at right now is between the sun, which will go to Wednesday, and whoop, let's go back a day, Tuesday. The sun and Chiron. We know what the sun is. It's in its own sign. So there's a vivacious kind of energy about what the sun wants to make statements about. It's in Leo, after all. It's in that sign that is fiery and full of energy. And it forming that trine over there to Chiron, you just bring in the, you know, perhaps that maverick quality of what Chiron in another fire sign is going to have to energize the sun with. But it can also be things that generally we wouldn't be drawn to, say, I want this to be a part of the equation. No, there could be energy that's coming in that could have that irreconcilable factor. You know, the Aries impulse to drive, to do something. Well, that's an inspiration for a sun, any sun. Yeah, okay. What is it that we might be tempted to teach or to learn? That also is in the equation, you know, and it's in this fiery element. Are we ready and willing to take chances and factors, information that we, you know, had the opportunity during our Mercury retrograde cycle to look into? Yeah, did you? I know I did. I, was inspired partly through my dreaming things, but one of my spirit help was his dragon. And dragon led me through synchronicity to look at the draconic chart. People, a draconic chart. Well, the draconic chart is done in a different zodiac than the tropical, the sidereal. It's its own chart. And what the draconic chart is based on is it's based on the nodes of the moon with an emphasis on that north node. But it's really hard in any nodal consideration to just use one of the nodes, but to focus on that north node as a signature, if you will, of what does it mean to be a soul. And you can, I talk or I consider a substantial footprint that the soul process actually occupies in our lives when we're willing to tune into it. So this, step into the draconic chart, what it does is it says your chart stays exactly the same, all the aspects and everything, but it takes the north node of the moon and puts it at 0 degrees Aries. So it changes everything in the chart by sign, unless you happen to be born with your north node quite close to that 0 degrees of Aries. And what this chart represents is, unlike your tropical natal chart, which is excellent as a vehicle to, you know, expose your personality traits. The draconic chart is the chart that your soul intends you to tune into when you become aware of and have the willingness to actually utilize that soul aspect of yourself. And comparing the two gives a conversation of uh, that, that interplay between your personality and your soul, and trying to determine what is it in this life dance that I am going to emphasize? Am I going to be just a dynamic personality with everything that I've got? Or am I going to recognize that as a soul being, I came to provide something that is required by and through this life dance, not just for myself, but for life, every aspect of it, and that exchange of energy at a soul level that we have with one another has the potential to awaken a version of living here on the planet that it might seem just more than a wee bit elusive in the current world situations. But if the willingness is there to allow it to come through us, we're going to be able to awaken with each other into a version of this living experience that, you know, we haven't even thought of yet. It's that energetically new, but it takes the soul awareness, awakening, in order to inspire us. Anyway, that trine over there to Chiron crossed our fire signs. It's exciting. And, just for a little extra panache this week, the moon has been out of bounds. Since we're talking about the moon's nodes here, I can click it out here. See, this is Tuesday. It's already 27 degrees north, which means that it's down likely in Cancer or Gemini. Well, there it is in Cancer, tickling our two most beneficial planets of all, Jupiter and Venus. And on this Tuesday, the moon is going to essentially cross paths with both of them. And this is Tuesday that I'm sitting down to do this consideration with you. So, Jupiter, exalted in Cancer, feeling the potential for how is it that I am tuned into the earth element. Oh, yeah, it's a fire sign. Why am I saying an earth element? Because it is the capacity to reach down through your feet and connection to this earth, to become aware of the minerals and resources that are there underneath your feet, your foundation, as it were, your home, your family. These are all Cancerian things that Jupiter is asking us. Don't think small about these things. And we're in this Jupiter going through Cancer for a year right now, right there in the middle of Cancer. We still have another half a year left to basically make sure that we're tuned into how in tune am I with what it means to be in a part of family. And I don't just mean blood family, though that definitely can be an aspect of this. But know the familiar connection that you have being in the human family. Or, if you want to just squeeze just a wee bit more into that package, how about our earth family? Are you in tune with the wild animals and plants that surround you? This can be family too. Our celestial family. You know, we have our planetary characters that surround us all the time, which is what this astrology talk is always about. What are the planetary characters at this time asking us to consider? Thursday comes, Friday comes. Look at here. The sun is at 29 degrees of Leo, which means that on this day, the sun is actually going to shift from Leo into Virgo. We're going to get a change of flavor. I'm going to take the chart off here for just a minute. This image, I don't know where I got it, but it's kind of has a Rube Goldbergish feel. Rube Goldberg. Yeah, that's it. Uh, Speaks to me of the essence of Virgo, trying to facilitate the continued operation of life. And this contraption that's behind me here is in the process of being, looked after, taken care of, you know, refined, made sure that its parts function effectively with one another. That's essential Virgo. The process of making sure that the machine of life is uh, being well taken care of so that the mechanics of the living process can show up as they need to. And in this image, you might recognize that now that's not what I signed up for. I didn't want something so wild and crazy. Why not? You know, the the plodding, mm, meticulous, same old kind of energy that, is the doldrums of the living process that we are told is all that we can expect from doing this life dance if we're going to fit into the mechanism of what society says is appropriate for us. No way. It's just, that's not it. The variety of what it is that we came to invent, we came to uh, try to understand more effectively, requires an expansion, if you will, of our creative capabilities into, new areas of invention, you know. And Virgo is about making sure that whatever it is that has been invented is looked after, cared for, fine tuned, if you will, so that something potentially new can come from it that we hadn't thought of before. And there I go back to that soul awareness. What is it? We don't know yet because we haven't really been living effectively from that soul perspective. Anyway, this image, as we do this dance, see our sun and our moon really close together. We're about to come into our new moon. Anyway, someone trying to call me, but so as we move this clock ahead an hour at a time on our Friday, a Venus day, by the way, you can kind of see the sun getting ever so much closer to that Virgo and the moon catching up with it. There we are. It's now 2 o'clock in the afternoon here on the West Coast, and the sun has just shifted into Virgo on Friday this week. It's time to change hats. No longer that, flamboyant Leonian quality that wants to light fires everywhere, but that Virgo capacity to, take care of this machine of life that we live within so that the potential for something new has the opportunity to put in an appearance. And as we continue on through the day until we get till really late at night, 11 o'clock, and the moon catches up with the sun right there at 0 degrees of Virgo. What's what's the Sabian symbol for 0 degrees of Virgo have to say? And the Sabian symbols can be used as divinatory tool. It's not necessarily like there are hard and fast rules to how one plays with that Sabian symbol. They just give you the chance to, if you're willing, tune into that energy that the Sabians are bringing up and say, can I play with this in the version of me that I am about right now? And right now, what we're talking about is a new moon. And with every new moon, it's time to set your intentions for the next lunar cycle going all the way around. And this next lunar cycle will probably be right near the end of Virgo because this is happening at 0 degrees of Virgo, and 28, 29 days of movement is what it takes to get around to its next new moon. We're going to have a Virgoan consideration for this lunar dance as we set our intention. Are we going to take care of this machine of life in such a fashion that it gives us the opportunity to be inventive, you know? Make sure that the little tweaks and stuff that we do to it are going to provide opportunity for perhaps the birth of something new. For this first degree of Virgo, the Sabian symbol reads, in a portrait, the significant feature of a man's head are artistically emphasized, and the keynote, the capacity to picture to oneself clearly salient features in the overall meaning of any life situations. Picture, if you will. This says this is a personal vision that we're having of that image that is salient. That means we tune into it. After all, this is in a way like art. It's in the eye of the beholder. Our creation is what we see it. Somebody else's creation, it's still what we see in it. And as we open up this Virgo window, as we set our intentions for what is it that I want to accomplish during this next lunar cycle, this new moon. Now, there is one other aspect to consider for this, and it's called a yod, Y-O-D, or finger of God is another one of the terms for it. This is an aspect where two planets, in this case, Pluto and the Saturn Neptune conjunction, are in a sextile degree, 60 degrees from one another, which means that they're in elements, fire and air, that actually easily converse with one another. And both of these planets are in these aspects called a quincunx, 5/12ths of the circle, to this new moon happening down here at the beginning of Virgo. Now, a quincunx is an aspect that is not easily reconcilable. It's the irreconcilable thing that we were talking about there with the potential Chironian dance. Well, the reason that those aspects are a challenge is because they aren't in elements that easily play in the sandbox effectively with one another. Air and earth, fire and earth. However, because it's a yod, finger of God, it's bringing to focus this sextile energy between these outer planets that are, they're in cahoots with one another. And the focus is being brought on this particular new moon right there at the very beginning of Virgo as, you know, as something that we need to make sure we are tuned into. There is an elemental experience that says that if we can uh, facilitate effective communication from our solar lunar dance with the energy that's being brought to focus by Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune, the potential life altering influences are going to carry with you for some time to come. It's the finger of God. It's not something that's just minor. We can say, oh, I don't really want to have anything to do with it. I'm just going to let it slide on by. You have that opportunity. Free will is one of the things that we as humans have the capacity to tune into at any time that we want. But are you awake enough? Are you willing to challenge yourself to tap into, you know, maybe just a little teeny bit, tick that toe into the water, so to speak, and say, what else is there? That's how this yod works. What else is there at that beginning image of the creation of some kind of form that represents, something idyllic that might be there to have us query, how can my version of this image be enhanced at this new moon as I set my intention for the next lunar cycle to grow a new version of me? Tune in to my soul level of awareness and wake up to what it is that the soul would have me do. Can I give you a guarantee? You might not be the same if your willingness to take this step proceeds. And right on the heels of this, if we go ahead one day, the sun moves into a square aspect with Uranus. Uranus, that planet of sudden upheaval, if you will, that is doing this. Why? because it's trying to wake us up to something that we may have, slipped into a slumber somewhere along the way and not realizes there for us to tune into. And Uranus, Prometheus, the great awakener, is trying to shake us, rattle our worlds enough to say, hey, dodo head, wake up. I got something to show you. And from this Gemini to Virgo, two signs ruled by the planet, you guessed it, Mercury. How I think, how I communicate. There's right there in Leo still. There's some percolating creative energy that wants to, yes, take a chance. Are you willing? Take a chance on something new? That's what we're being asked this week about. Welcome to the new moon. And welcome to the potential of a new creative process that needs our attention in order that something new might be born from this moment that could not have happened any other way but by our presence. That's all I got for this week. Welcome to the hat change that Virgo is asking us to participate in as this part of the life dance. Ciao.